Former Florida Governor Jed Bush has not yet officially announced his candidacy for the US presidency, but he's already acting like a candidate, beginning a European tour ahead of his expected announcement to run for president on June 15th. Bush's first stop is Germany. Senior international correspondent Atika Shubert joins us now from Berlin. And Atika, this is his first real foreign policy test ahead of his expected announcement. We've seen some excerpts from the speech he will give. What did he say about the relationship between the US and Europe?
Well, this is a speech he's giving to the Economic Council for the Christian Democrats, which is, of course, the political party of German Chancellor Angela Merkel. And it focuses quite a bit on trade, but also on the crisis in Ukraine. And he's going to urge politicians here to act tough on Russia, in particular, taking Vladimir Putin to task. So we do expect to hear that later on. But you're absolutely right. This is really about burnishing his foreign policy credentials and sort of showing that he can be very statesmanlike. And he's not the first one to try this kind of a tactic, of course. Former President Obama was here, of course, in 2008 when he was running for president. And he spoke to thousands of people at Brandenburg Gate, and that was a huge success. On the other hand, also another candidate, Mitt Romney, came through the region and made gaffe after gaffe during his run for the presidency. So it is very much a tricky road you go when you start trying to go to other countries and act presidential, especially if you haven't quite claimed your candidacy yet.
It certainly is. And of course, most people will remember, and perhaps not too fondly there, that his brother, George W. Bush, they'll remember his foreign policy, the president responsible for launching the invasion in Iraq in 2003. Do you think his brother's shadow will be hanging over him during this trip?
Well, it certainly will be the case for the average German Berlin resident here. Nobody here really knows who Jeb Bush is, and they associate the name Bush with former President George Bush and the war in Iraq. And that is not a good legacy for many people here. They see this very negatively. It's one reason why we saw so many people coming out for President Obama when he was running for president and made that famous speech here, because there was so much antipathy towards former President George Bush. So Jeb Bush has a lot to overcome with the German public. But again, he's not wooing the German public here. He's really talking to politicians and showing the public back home in the United States that he does have the qualities and foreign policy credentials to be a presidential candidate.
We'll have to see how it goes over the next few days. Atika Shubert in Berlin, thank you. Well, still to come, 4 days into the manhunt for two murderers who escaped a New York prison, and still the killers remain on the loose. What a man who lives near the prison is telling investigators he saw shortly after their escape.